All right, so big news out of Miami headquarters this week. Actually, today, Coach G has been fired. Lance Guidry has been fired. Um, Today's video, there's three different things I want to do. The first thing I want to do is just go over my initial thoughts on the whole thing. Second thing I want to do is talk about who I'd like to see replace Coach G as our defensive coordinator. And then the third thing is I just want to read a couple of comments that I've received on a couple of videos and posts and whatnot over the last couple of days. I do want to start to involve our community a little bit more in these videos, so I'm going to start to respond to one or two comments in our comment section every video just to get you all involved even more than what you are right now. So before we get into the video, my name is Jordan Harris. I'm your favorite host in the entire world, and this is Sports Truth. Please do like the video, subscribe to the channel. I appreciate it. All right, so what are my overall thoughts? If you're familiar with this channel, you know I have been pretty active. Let's just use the word active when it comes to people who wanted to see or people who felt like Coach G needed to be fired. I felt like he 100% underperformed. I felt like he was the main reason why our team did not go 12-0, to be honest with you. If our defense was close to what it was last year, I think we actually probably would have won a national championship, which is crazy. Our defense ranked in the top 25, but whenever you watch the actual games, it looked like we potentially had the worst defense in college football. Like, it was getting to the point where I was watching the game against Iowa State, and I was like calculating when we needed to score touchdowns. Like, I was like, okay, we get the ball before the end of the first half, we run all the clock out, and then we score a touchdown because they get the ball back at half. Like, I was doing that kind of thought because my mindset was we are not going to get one stop this game. So we've got to bank on scoring every possession and then hopefully getting two possessions in a row somewhere because of like a halftime break. Like, that's where my mindset was these last few games. So the fact that he did get terminated, I'm not happy about it, but it is what needed to happen. I do want to also say, I know a whole lot of y'all are doing the ding dong, the witch is dead dance and all that stuff because Coach G got fired, but I've been fired before. It's one of the worst feelings ever. I don't know if y'all have been fired from a job before, but I have, and it was horrible. Like, I felt like the biggest loser in the world. I felt like I let my family down. I felt like I embarrassed my parents. Like, it was a horrible feeling. So with that in mind, let's relax on like the memes and dancing around and being happy that the guy got terminated. Like, I saw one clown who put on his YouTube, I know he is a clown as far as I'm concerned, but he put on his YouTube channel a picture of Coach G in a trash can. Like, come on, man. Like, he's a grown man. He's got a family. Like, let's relax on the memes and stuff. I just think that's disrespectful. Did the guy underperform and frustrate the heck out of all of us all season? Yeah, 100% that's true. But he didn't do anything to hurt us. Like, we shouldn't be happy that this man got fired, that he lost his job. We shouldn't be happy that this man is probably miserable right now. So let's just be respectful. Again, we can be happy that our team has taken a step to improving the team. Like, we can be happy about that. But let's not be happy and rejoice in the fact that somebody got fired. I hope that makes sense of what I'm saying. Okay, so those are my overall thoughts on it. As far as just my initial thoughts on what I thought of when I saw that Coach G got fired. So who do I want to see replace Coach G? I don't have anybody in mind, not particularly, but I do have a framework in mind. The first thing is I believe this has to be a person who has experience on this level, Power 4 school level, hopefully not someone who's coming from a place who has everything in the cupboard that you could dream of. What do I mean when I say that? I would rather not hire somebody who's the defensive coordinator of Georgia, because Georgia has the most talent in the entire country. Like the job is almost done for you. You know what I'm saying? I would rather get somebody who's from somewhere like, and I'm not saying this is who I'd want, but somebody like a defensive coordinator from a school like Arizona State, where you're not expecting them to do a whole lot. They don't have a bunch of 5-star recruits all over the place. They're full of 3-star, a few 4-star recruits, and their defense is lights out. Like that's what I'm looking to see. Somebody who's done a whole lot with not a whole lot. Does that make sense? So an overperformer. That's what I'm looking for. Somebody who, like I said, they don't have a whole bunch of crazy talent all over the field, and somehow their defense performs every week. Because what that tells you is that the guy who's calling those plays knows how to scheme things up, knows how to make adjustments, and knows how to teach the players how to improve every week. There's a term that I'm sure a lot of y'all have heard, and the term is synergy. Synergy is when the individual pieces sum up to make more than the actual total should be. What does that mean? I know that may sound crazy. Synergy is, for instance, 1 plus 1 is 3. You assume that 1 plus 1 should equal 2, but synergy is when that 1 and that 1 comes together and makes something greater than 2. So why do I talk about synergy? I feel like what Coach G did this year was actually the opposite of synergy. Somehow we had 1 plus 1 equaling 0. Like if you looked at the talent that we had on the defensive side of the field, it looked like we should have been a top 10 defense. Our front four looked like it was stacked. Our linebacking core looked like it was stacked. We had some question marks in the secondary, sure, but somehow we started off really good and it just got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. It's like we did the opposite of synergy. We had 5 plus 5 equals 4 or something crazy like that. Like, how could he somehow coach these guys who look on paper to be excellent and perform the previous year pretty good, really good in some instances, and then this year they just get worse? Well, we need to bring somebody in who actually knows how to put forth a bit of synergy. Somebody who's got decent talent, but they've got like the top 10 defense in the country. That is who we need to bring in. Okay, so let me read off first. I know who I would love to see in the position, but I don't think it's the right time. I would love to see Jason Taylor in that position. 1, because he's recruiting his butt off. 2, because I see him on the sidelines sweating like crazy, screaming and hollering at the defensive lineman who underperformed this year, unfortunately. And he's got a great name, like he's a Hall of Fame football coach, right? Or Hall of Fame football player, sorry. So I would love for him to get that job. But when your defensive line is supposed to be the main cog that makes this defense go, and it just didn't do anything all year, and the fact that he doesn't have any experience as a defensive coordinator makes me say it's probably not the right time for him. So that's my thoughts on that. Now, let me read a couple of comments and respond to some of these comments, because some of y'all are pretty creative. Some of y'all are kind of nuts, I'm not going to lie to you. Every now and again, I'll read one of these comments and just roll my eyes and shake my head and keep on moving. These two, I want to respond to these on here. All right, so the first one comes from Western Tomb 7. His response was, I really don't care where Coach G lands. I'm more curious about who we're going to get and who we're going to hire next. But how many more coaches need to be fired before you realize that Cristobal is the actual issue? I think that's a really good question. Most of y'all know that I am a staunch supporter of Mario Cristobal. Is he the blame? No, I don't think that he is the blame. I think he does deserve some of the blame. The reason why I support Coach Cristobal so much is because he is, like I've said before when we first hired him, I believe if I was going to create a coach for Miami, he fits like 9 out of the 10 boxes, almost all of them. The two most important is that he recruits his butt off. He is one of the best recruiters in the nation, like top 5 in the nation, him alone. Of all the coaches, all the assistant coaches, I can't name 5 of them in the entire country that I would rather have recruiting for my team than Mario Cristobal. Fact. All right. The second thing is his stability. Y'all see how this coaching carousel goes, man. People go from one. Let's look at Lane Kiffin. They go from one school to the next. They tell you, "I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere." And then next thing you know, they showing a video of a plane and he's landing somewhere else, accepting a job. Like, we don't have to worry about that with Mario Cristobal. That is a huge benefit that I think a lot of y'all overlook. Everybody's screaming, "Fire Cristobal, fire Cristobal." And every time my response is, "Who would you rather have?" And then I hear crickets. So in the comment section, I know a lot of y'all are still saying fire Cristobal. My question to you is, leave in the comment section, who would you hire in his place? And then after that, let me know how many years you expect that person to stay here. Because let's say if we did go get Lane Kiffin, whom I cannot stand Lane Kiffin. Let's say if we went and hired him. How long would it be before he had a 10-win season, or let's say he put 2 10-win seasons in a row back to back, and then he bolts and goes to Alabama, or he bolts and goes to Georgia? How long would it be? If Cristobal puts together 2 11-win seasons in a row and Alabama came calling him, I'm telling y'all right now, he's not taking that job. He's at his dream job. Another thing that I want y'all to understand is when you are a coach, most of the time you have one main skill set that you're really good at. And then the other skill sets, you put people in place who are smarter than you in those areas. For instance, in my businesses, I oversee finances for all of my businesses. All of them, I oversee the finances. There's nobody in my companies that do finances better than me. So I do that in all the businesses. I used to do sales and operations, man. I used to do all of that stuff. But what did I do? My brother became my partner. He oversees the operations because he's better at that than I am. I went and hired a sales group, a sales team, because they are better in sales than I am. So they run sales now. I don't make one cold call the entire year. They do that because they're better at it than I am. That is what head coaches do most of the time. They have one expertise, and then they put other people in place to do the things that they're not so great at. We know Mario Cristobal struggled with time management. He went out and got a time management coach. We look at somebody like Dabo Swinney, who gets all kinds of credit, but he has what is his expertise? If he got fired right now from his position, would you hire him as your defensive coordinator? Would you hire him as your offensive coordinator? Would you hire him as your special teams coordinator? No. He's considered a CEO head coach. Just go ahead and look it up. You'll see. Dabo Swinney, all the credit that he receives, he's considered a CEO head coach. That means he has no specialty. His job, what he's really good at is putting people in positions, letting them run those positions, and then they report to him and let him know what they're doing. You're not going to see Dabo Swinney call timeout and say, "Nah, run XYZ, double bridge, tight end, like he's not going to do that. He's not doing that at all. Instead, he might look at the time clock, see that they're winding down, looking at the offensive coordinator. Do you have a play? Are they going to snap it? No? Okay. Should I call timeout? Okay, I'm going to call timeout. That's what Dabo Swinney does. What Mario Cristobal does, he is an excellent recruiter. He's excellent at it. He puts people in place to be excellent defensive coordinators. He puts people in place to be excellent offensive coordinators. He puts people in place to be excellent defensive line coaches. And he relies on them to coach their guys up and report up to him. That's what he does. If you look at somebody like Brent Venables at OU, he is a defensive guy. That's his main focus. So when the defense looks bad at OU, everybody's looking at the head coach like, "Bro, you over the defense, right?" Mario Cristobal doesn't have a specialty like that. You can count offensive line, obviously. You can count that. But he doesn't have a specialty like that. His main focus, he's more of like a CEO guy like Dabo Swinney is. So whenever people say it's Mario Cristobal's fault, I'm like, y'all don't quite understand what he does, but y'all don't quite get what he's doing. The way that he coaches, it's like, okay, if the offensive coordinator is not performing, I'm going to get a different offensive coordinator who believes in the same vision that I believe in, have him come in and oversee this offense. He reports to me. I'm going to be the main guy doing the recruiting and all the other stuff. That's how Mario Cristobal coaches. So is it Mario Cristobal's fault that the defense looked bad? Sure, because the buck stops there. He's the head guy. But he needs to just replace that person with someone who has better schemes and better everything else. Was it Mario Cristobal's fault that Coach G was there in the first place? Hell yeah, it is. He hired the guy. So that's my thoughts on that, man. So how many coaches needs to be fired before you realize that Cristobal is the issue? I'll say 100. As long as he keeps on recruiting the way he's recruiting, and he continues to put people in place that helps his issues. Like, for instance, I'll say, like, his time management was nuts a couple of times. So I was glad to see that he got a time management coach in. He continues to do that kind of processing. I'm all on board. I will continue to be on board. I'll just say that. The next question. The next question. Okay. It comes from WSCWAD7788. Okay. So here's what he says. I put a post up that has, it says, Hurricanes defensive coordinator Lance Guidry fired after 2 seasons. It's a picture of it, and I said absolutely had to happen. Curious to see where he lands, which I am curious to see where he lands. So here's a response I got from WSCWAD7788. He says, "Happy now. You took food out of this man's mouth. You articulate the failure of his defense so well that they listened and fired the guy. ! Who else are you getting fired?" All right. So I almost feel like that was a joke. Like it was I don't know. But look, man, I'm not one of those weirdos who think that I'm super important, okay? I'm really important to my wife and my kids and to my mom and my brother and my sister. I'm important to my family, and I'm important to the 120 some odd people that I employ. Like, I'm not that important to where people are listening to me and firing people based on my opinion. I'm quite certain that if Mario Cristobal heard me talking, if he ever heard me talking on this podcast, which I'm 99.9% sure he has never heard me talk before. If he heard me talk about this stuff, he most likely would laugh me out of the room. He would disregard everything I said, as he should disregard everything I've said. We're not that important, man. A lot of us think that we are super important, but most of the time, we're not. Okay? So when you say, I took food out of this man's mouth, come on, cuz. I'm not that important, all right? Sure, I do have a voice. Sure, I do have a small platform that we're growing together. But I'm not, like, come on, man. Come on. I don't have the power to be doing anything like that. As my man Cole said on Martin, they're not going to give that brother that kind of power. It's not going to happen, all right? So I almost feel like WSCWAD 7788 should put the dunce hat on this today because bro is tripping. Who else are you going to get fired? The only folks I fire are the people that's employed in my businesses that I've hired before. So I'm not fired. I ain't getting any coaches fired. I'm not coaching anywhere unless my nephews decide to play some sports in the near future. I'm not coaching anywhere. I don't have the power to fire any coaches, so you ain't got to worry about that. All right. That's all that I can say about that. Again, man, I do plan on including y'all because the comment section does go pretty live every now and again. Well, most of the time it goes pretty live, and I appreciate that. So I'm going to continue to include 1 or 2 comments every video just to respond and keep y'all engaged. But that's all that I got for you today. I do appreciate you watching the video. As always, you could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with me, and I truly appreciate that. So take care. God bless. Peace.